Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the book of Genesis. Today we'll be looking at chapters 32 through 35, and we'll pick up where we left off with Jacob getting ready to reunite with his brother Esau in chapter 32. So, now if you remember, when Jacob had last seen Esau, he wanted to kill him, and he's a little bit nervous about reuniting with his brother now. So, Jacob has left Laban behind, but Esau is the one that lies ahead. Jacob had his problems with Laban when they left, and he had his problems with Esau when he left, but now he's going to have to face Esau again. And so he sends news of himself to Esau and asks for a kindly welcome home. And the message comes back that Esau is heading towards him with 400 men, or in Jacob's eyes, basically, this is a small army that he's coming to meet him with. So Jacob is probably rightfully terrified here, and with a breaking heart, he divides up his family and his flocks so that some may escape the coming massacre. He begs God to keep his promise and protect him. And the following day, he sends animals and servants, and you can read that whole description there of all that Jacob sends to his brother Esau in that passage and he sends them in groups, and each is briefed to say that these are a gift from Esau to Jacob, or to Esau from Jacob, and that Jacob himself is following. And in this way, Jacob hopes to kind of buy some goodwill from Esau to spare his life. And so finally, he even sends his own family on ahead, but he splits them up. He divides them up, and that must have been a little bit awkward too, because he basically divided the ones that he loved the most in the front or in the back versus the ones in the front. So that must have been interesting. But so we're on our way here, and then we get kind of an interesting account here where we have the first wrestling match in the history of the world recorded. So Jacob he's in torment. He thinks he's asleep. It's in the middle of the night, and there's nothing more he can do. And then he starts wrestling with someone, an angel of the Lord. And at first, Jacob thinks that like maybe this is just a dream, and then he realizes that, hey, this is the sun's rising. This person's saying, hey, let me go. He's like, oh man, this is real. And as dawn breaks, this opponent dislocates Jacob's hip, and Jacob clings on, refusing to admit defeat. He's always been kind of a hard-headed guy, and he won't let go without a blessing to resolve this terrible conflict. And so the one wrestling with Jacob gives him a new name, Israel, meaning he struggles with God, and then he blesses him. So only then does Jacob realize that he's been fighting God. It wasn't a dream, and he has a permanent limp to prove it. So Jacob comes of age here. This is a real crisis of his life, and he struggles with Esau and God, past and future, fear and faith. All of this is coming together at the same time, and God gives him a new identity. He calls him Israel, which we know is going to be God's chosen people, his name as well, Israel, and he's going to bring him peace as well. So in the morning, Esau appears, galloping towards them with 400 men. And as Jacob prepares for his death, Esau runs forward and he hugs him. Jacob is overwhelmed. His newfound peace with God is echoed in his reconciliation with his brother. They have left on bad terms, but here they are together again. And this is not that unlike the story of the prodigal son, where the son is coming home and he's dreading what the father is going to do, but when the father sees him, he can't wait to see him. He hugs him, he gives him a ring, and Esau's kind of in a similar situation. He's just so excited to see his brother, and he loves him, and he hugs him when he sees him there. So Jacob and his family, then they settle at Shechem in Canaan, which is about a day's journey from Bethel, which, if you remember, where his journey began, on that comfortable rock pillow where he took that nap in our last Genesis reading. And so then we hear about Dinah, who was Jacob's daughter. And so Dinah is really, we'll just say, she was raped by this guy Shechem, a Hivite, who then, after doing that, he wants to marry her. He decides, well, I love this woman, I want to be with her. And so, hiding their rage, her brother, Dinah's brothers, who were, Dinah, remember, was Jacob's daughter. So she's got all these brothers there, and they pretend that they're going to be friends with these people. They pretend to make this treaty, and in fact, they hold out the hope of many marriages between the two people in the years to come. And all that they ask is that the Hivite men should be circumcised like they were. So they agreed to do this because the Shechem guy now really loves Dinah, And so if he really loved her, he probably should have just gone the traditional way and asked to marry Jacob's daughter, and none of these things would have happened. But remember, sins have consequences, and sins have consequences for everybody, including these Hivites here. So while these Hivites are still sore from the circumcision, Simeon and Levi, which were the only like full brothers of Dinah, they attack the city and they kill Shechem and his father and all of the men in the city. So Jacob's other sons then join in, take all the cattle, carry off the women and children to be servants, and they loot the houses. So this original sin of rape by Shechem and of the Hivites is avenged by deceit and cruelty, which was more sin. So the answer to sin was more sin, and it's going to come with a cost. So after this, Jacob is not really happy about it. He doesn't like what had happened to his daughter, obviously, but he's not happy that his sons have been dishonest and that they've done all this. And he's like, look, you've just painted a target on us for all of these foreign people here in Canaan. Like, we're strangers in this land. This is not our home. And so God then tells Jacob that, okay, it is time to come back to Bethel. Come back to this place where you first committed yourself to me, where you said you would serve me. And so the family then gets rid of all of this, of their old superstition. They bury the foreign gods and all the lucky charms. And for his part, God renews his promise that Jacob will become a great nation and receive the land of Canaan. Jacob sets up a stone and pours out an offering, just as he did in this place 20 years before. In those days, God's blessings were just a dream, and now they are his daily experience. So on the way south towards Ephrath, though, Rachel dies while struggling to give birth, and the baby survives and is called Benjamin, which means son of my right hand. And then Rachel is buried about 12 miles north of Ephrath or Bethlehem. So Jacob comes home to his father Isaac in Mamre, which is where he is now, and then Isaac dies at a great age. He's lived a long time. I believe it says 180 years. And Esau and Jacob then bury their father there. And this is the end of the age of Isaac, who was Abraham's son. This is the end for him. And so that's where we'll pick this story back up next week. And that's all for today. I'll see you tomorrow in the book of Judges.